Good evening. This is an update for Hurricane Milton, and as you can see right now, it is looking very explosive currently as of 8 p.m. Central Time, and is growing very rapidly. It's a Category 1 hurricane, and it is going to be a Category 2 later tonight, and is expected to become a Category 3 major hurricane tomorrow. You can see a very explosive convection bubble of thunderstorm activity near the center, and the eye wall has closed off, so that is pretty much protecting it from that wind shear and that dry air from getting into that eye wall, and it is still undergoing that rapid intensification cycle. Earlier today, it was really starting to rapidly intensify, drop 5 millibars in an hour, which is pretty insane. But this is the currently updated forecast cone from the 7 p.m. Central Advisory. You can see it's expected to become a major Category 3 hurricane on 1 p.m. Monday tomorrow. We do have hurricane watches currently out for the Yucatan with tropical storm warnings as well. Stays as a major hurricane, and this is forecast to become a Category 4 hurricane around late Monday, and then as we get into Tuesday, it's going to be still a Category 4 hurricane, and then making landfall as a Category 3 hurricane as forecasted from the National Hurricane Center somewhere around the Tampa area to Fort Myers. Could even be a little more north of Tampa. We're not totally sure on where this is going to be making landfall yet, but it's going to be generally along this area of Florida as the cone is showing. Again, that cone is pretty much showing the possibilities of where it could end up. And here's current model intensity guidance from Milton. You could see it's currently a Category 1 hurricane and is expected to skyrocket up to a Category 2 to a Category 3 within the next 24 hours. Category 4 hurricane, which we have multiple models reaching, and that is expected. Some models have this forecasted to become a Category 4 hurricane much faster. Some of these have it more gradual. As you can see, some of these models have it hitting that wind shear right before landfall, and that weakens it down a lot. But some of these models also have it kind of gradually breaking apart, and that wouldn't be that good for Florida. With that gradual, you're still going to have a major hurricane by landfall if that happens, but before landfall, if this does continue to weaken down to a Category 1 hurricane, this definitely won't be worst case scenario, but it's just uncertainty right now on what this thing is going to do right before landfall. So again, follow local official guidelines on evacuation orders and stuff like that. Listen to the National Hurricane Center, because if this is a worst case scenario storm, you're going to see really big impacts across the Tampa to Fort Myers area that could definitely be deadly. And then here's current spaghetti models from this storm, and again, there's not a lot of agreement with this with these models, and that's why you're still seeing a pretty large cone, is because you're seeing some models that are going just north of Tampa, while some are just impacting directly Fort Myers. So still a lot of uncertainty. We know it's going to hit in this area, but we're just unsure on exactly where. Aircraft recon is currently going through the storm again. They have found a drop sound of 978 millibars. So this storm is continuing to undergo intensification. We're still seeing those purple wind barbs, as you can see there, and those are around 64 to 83 knots of wind. So that's still around a Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane. But as you can see, that pressure is considerably dropping from this morning. And that just it's further verifying that this storm is intensifying and intensifying fast. Another concern with this storm is flash flooding. You see we have a moderate risk for flash flooding. That includes the Orlando, Tampa Bay area, close to the Jacksonville, Florida area, and also Miami is in a moderate risk for flash flooding. The yellow risk is a slight chance for flash flooding, so you're still going to see a big chance for flash flooding, but not as big as the moderate. This entire area is really going to be seeing a big threat for flash flooding. You're of course going to see some big time storm surge amounts across this area. It depends on where the storm is going to be making landfall, because as you see a storm make landfall, the winds are circling around yet again. The winds are circling around the storm, so you're mostly seeing storm surge on the southern part of the storm, while you're seeing winds being pulled away from Florida. For example, with Hurricane Ian, it made landfall in this area, so you had winds being taken out at Tampa Bay, and the Bay area was pretty much empty of water. There was no water in Tampa Bay because those winds were pushing out all that water and then putting it into Fort Myers Beach. So that's why it depends on where this storm is going to be making landfall to give those exact storm surge totals. Here's that rainfall potential for the Florida Peninsula. And as you can see, the most area for rainfall, there's going to be a lot of rainfall in the northern part of the storm. So you're going to see most rainfall that is in Orlando, Tampa Bay area, Daytona Beach. You're going to see potentially 8 to 12 inches of rainfall. I expect a lot more rainfall in more localized areas. While the southern part of the storm is not going to have a ton of rainfall on it, we are still going to see that storm surge, strong winds, and still going to be seeing a big flash flooding potential. It looks like the Everglades will be seeing a lot of rainfall as well. So again, get prepared now before it's too late, especially if you live on the western coast of Florida, up here in Daytona as well. Get prepared before it's too late. You're going to see that biggest threat of that storm surge on the western coast. While you're seeing strong winds and rainfall across the majority of the state. That'll lead to, of course, power outages, tree limbs falling, and damage to buildings and houses across the area. Here is the current GFS model. This is the 18Z run. This is just coming out here. And the GFS model has this, again, very strong storm that is just off the Yucatan, Mexico, and then as we head into Wednesday, you can see a very strong storm still, but it begins to weaken before landfall, and GFS has this storm trending a lot more north, and instead going more towards the Big Bend of Florida, and this would put it in some pretty big wind shear, and that would potentially break it apart a little bit before landfall, making it a little bit less stronger of a storm, but it's still going to be a very strong storm, likely still a major hurricane by landfall. But as you can see, like I've been saying with this storm, you're going to see a lot of rainfall in the northern part of the storm. So depending on where this makes landfall, you're just going to see a lot of rainfall in the northern part, while you're going to see storm surge on the southern part. And as we look at the HAFSB model, and this model was designed for hurricanes, you can see this gets down to 927 on Tuesday, just north of Yucatan here. And this is a very strong hurricane. This would be a category 5 hurricane, which is definitely not out of the question as of right now. And as this makes its northeastern trek towards Florida, you can see it starts to break apart because of that wind shear and some dry air up there. But again, this model also has it a little more north, more making landfall just north of Tampa Bay, but pretty much head on. According to this model, the HWRF model has this again a lot more north. We're starting to see some more northern trends with this storm, and this would put some big time storm surge in Tampa, because if this just makes landfall a little more north of Tampa, we're going to see some major impacts for storm surge in Tampa Bay. And this has it as a very strong major hurricane as well, making landfall there. The Euro model kind of underdoes hurricane, but right now it's not really underdoing the hurricane. 952, and that's going to be around the afternoon hours of Wednesday. This also has it just a tiny bit north of Tampa Bay, pretty much head on Tampa Bay though. And this would again put a lot of storm surge into Tampa. Best case scenario for Tampa would be a little further south for storm surge, just for storm surge, but that again would be the worst case scenario for Fort Myers, putting a lot more storm surge. They've had Ian storm surge, most recently Helene storm surge, so they certainly do not want storm surge as well. But finally, we can look at the HMON model, which again has this storm a lot more north, but again the HMON doesn't have it weakening a lot before landfall. It makes landfall around 975 millibars, and that's only a Cat 2. But as you can see, a lot of these rain bands are breaking up according to this model run. But again, in these areas, Tampa, Clearwater, Fort Myers should be preparing for the worst, listening to local officials, listening to evacuation orders, and stuff like that. If you did enjoy the update, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Like the video to push this video out to more people who might be affected by this hurricane and might need the latest updates on Hurricane Milton. Share this video with any friends or family. Again, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.